Hey, I'm Ian, and I'm a professional DJ. I have DJed in places like San Francisco, Seattle, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Barcelona, Las Vegas, and I'm just here to share with you kind of what I do and how I do it and what makes that kind of fun and interesting. Anyway, I've got a couple of things here. This first one is what's called a USB controller. You'll notice that there are two turntable-y like things here. If you remember, vinyl was the original format that DJs used back when this started in the late 70s, early 80s. And now we have these things that hook up to computers and let you sort of replicate that process. And of course, this is my laptop. You'll notice it has some DJ software loaded in here. So yeah, let's get started. So I've already loaded up a song. I chose Brander Mai by Anna David, and we'll just kind of get that started, and I'll walk you through the process of mixing songs together through a technique called beat matching. So anyway, right, let's get started. So I'm gonna hit play here. You'll notice here is the fader. We're going to be using that a lot. And this kind of controls where the volume is, where the sound is. So as I slide it, so right now it's all the way to the left, right? So this guy's track will be playing loudest. And as I move it to the right, it'll fade in this guy. You've got your tempo controls up here, which I'll explain in a second. And that's about all you need to know for this thing. So let's get started. All right. So yeah, you'll see that it's kind of playing over here, and I can also hear it in my headphones. Now, I prefer as a DJ to start picking the next track as soon as the first one starts going. And that way I have enough time to figure out how I want to mix it, maybe find different tracks. If it doesn't work out, I can change stuff around, Kind of helps me out. So let's go ahead and find another track here. I should mention that a lot of these remixes are very long. They're like 6.5, 7 minutes, 8 minutes long. But as you'll see, a lot of it gets overlapped, so it's not as long as you think it is. Let's see. I think Freemasons should work pretty well. We'll do Nothing But a Heartache. So now I'm going to check out the track. You probably can't see it here, but Brander Mai is playing at 128 BPM, and the computer says that Nothing But a Heartache is going to play at 125 BPM. So what I want to do is I want to take my tempo slider and change it until it's 128-ish. Again, you're not going to get it like super perfect, but you'll get it close enough, So anyway, I'm going to preview the track, make sure that it's all okay. Now, this track, this new track, Nothing But a Heartache, is what I'm going to hear playing in my headphones, which you can't hear, but I can hear it. And so I can kind of play around with it, listen to it, and I can control how much, I can control the mix in the headphones with this thing, and that'll allow me to preview everything, make sure it all sounds right. Sometimes there's a delay between your mixing board and the actual audio output. And this one, there's a little bit of a delay. So this is where getting everything in the headphones is really helpful. So I'm going to start the second track, which you can't hear. And by spinning this platter on the right, I can subtly change the tempo of the other track. So I can speed it up by turning it clockwise, or slow it down by turning it counterclockwise, and in that way I can kind of sync it all up. There's a visual display here where you can see the actual waveforms, or a visual representation of the sound playing or rather moving across, and you can use that to match it up. I prefer to do it with my ears, and I've been doing this long enough where that kind of works. So either way, kind of all works out. And also, I should mention, you can use the mouse to skip way ahead in the track, which is a lot easier to do in this case. So now that I've synced up my track as I want it, I can kind of just hang out. Now, as a DJ, you're usually visible on some sort of stage, so if you want to make it look like you're having a good time, you know, you can't just go up there and space out or something. But also you want to keep an eye on what's going on with your track. For example, I'm kind of looking at this track and I can see that there are about 3 minutes and 15 seconds left on it. Now, when it gets to about a minute left, and this again is for tracks running at 128 BPM, as the BPM increases, you'll have to get into it more. You'll have to tweak that a bit to see what works perfectly. But we'll just we'll let this run through, and then when it gets close to a minute, I'll start explaining what I'm doing when I want to mix in the next track. And yeah, and so I should explain that mixing wasn't always like this. You didn't have all these fancy options beforehand. You know, things that tell you what the BPM is. And BPM is beats per minute, or how fast, you know, how fast. The higher the BPM, the faster the song is, right? So that's, you know, it's generally important to know. But before that, you know, a long time ago, they didn't really have counters for those things. So you were just kind of doing it in your head and adjusting the speed of the vinyl, like, as you listen to it. So it was much harder. Mixing with vinyl is really hard. I can do it. I love doing it. But I don't like carrying around a bunch of records with me, which can be very tedious, obviously. So this is like a really easy alternative to that. So we're about at 1:45 right now. So I'll want to start listening, and I have to know the tracks beforehand to know when certain things are going to happen in them. So we've got about 1:20 at this point, so I'm going to get ready to start queuing up this next track to go. You can hear the at Brandermai is kind of coming to a climax here, and so we'll get ready to start mixing. So you can't see this, but the new track is running a little behind this one, so I'm going to start it again, and I'm going to start mixing it right now. So I have to kind of adjust it to where I can hear it. And now I'm going to start, now that they're synced up, I'm going to start fading in the new track, Nothing But a Heartache. So you hear as I drag this slider to the middle, you'll hear both tracks playing at once. And you kind of want to adjust it so it sounds kind of natural, right? If you've done it right, the beats will match up, like in this case, and people won't be able to tell, I mean, they'll be able to tell, but that a new track is playing. And that's how you do it. That's how you mix a track. So now, the fader, and this slider here is all the way to the right, so it's only Nothing But a Heartache. I've stopped Brandermai. Well, I mean, it ran out of track, so there you go. So now we need to find another track. And I think, let's see what we could go with here. See, and this is always the hard part, and this is why you want to give yourself a lot of time. I've got 5 minutes and a half left on Nothing But a Heartache, so I have a little time to kind of look around and see. I think think I know what I'm going to go with. So I'm going to drag this. I chose Finger and Cadell's Mana Mana. I'm going to drag that back into where Brander My was. So now that's queued up in the headphones. You can't hear it, but I can do this. Oh look, Mana Mana is already at 128 beats per minute. And you'll notice this happens a lot with dance tracks. You don't really have to change the tempo very much, because you always want to DJ within a specific genre, because otherwise it gets really weird with mixing and everything. It doesn't sound that good. So anyway, I'm going to get this track set up. Okay. So now that I kind of understand, and again, like, keep in mind that I've heard all of these tracks several times before. You want to, if you're going to mix tracks, you want to preview them at home first. It's not something you want to just go cold into, try mixing this new track without any experience, because that's not very good. Trust me on that one. So I know this track, I know where it starts and stuff, but I could have spent more time exploring it. Right now we have about 4 minutes left on Nothing But a Heartache, and so that'll start ending around a minute, and I'll show you what happens here. Now, one thing you should know is that about every year or so I come out with a new demo, and this is something that a lot of DJs do. We'll come out with new demos, post them online. They're usually hour-long sets, and it gives promoters, club owners, event managers and stuff something to listen to, something to give them an idea of what your sound is, and that way they can know, you know, what to expect, you know, if they like your musical style, if they want to hire you, that kind of thing. So that's something important to know. And also, when I DJ, I always record my sets, so I can access them later, listen to them, give them out. It's a good promotional tool. And if you're really lazy and you don't like making demos by yourself, you can use that as your demo if you did a really good job. Another thing I should mention, we're about at 2 minutes 45 right now on this track. Another thing I should mention is that in recent years, something has come up called Sync, and I've got a button for that on here, and basically what that does is automatically beat match your music. You stop and kind of know what you're doing, but it automatically beat matches your music. It's terrible. Don't do it. It's kind of cheesy and stuff. I never use it. Most DJs kind of stay away from it because it just takes all the fun out of it. You don't get to spin these platters, you don't, there's no joy of mixing. But you'll hear about the sync button and, you know, kind of these DJs hating on the sync button, so if you're curious about what that's about, that's what it's about. We're about at 2 minutes right now left on it. And so you'll notice a lot of these tracks will build, you know, up to something right here. So, yeah. It's almost time to start fiddling with Mana Mana and see how it'll match up with Nothing But a Heartache. I mean, I already know what's going on, but if you're, you know, new to this, you'll want to practice this kind of thing at home. But it's 1 minute and 40 right now. So, I'm gonna get ready to do this. I'm going to bring a little bit of Nothing But a Heartache into my headphones and see what's out there. So I'm going to get ready to plug it in. It's about at 1:16, 15. It's close enough, right? Now I'm going to start fading it in. So I'll bring the fader back over to the left, and you'll start hearing Mana Mana kind of in the mix, right? And usually when you DJ, you want to leave the fader in the middle for a little bit, so it sounds like both tracks are playing at once. Kind of gets the listener used to hearing both of them, you know, a little easier. And I'll slowly, very slowly fade it to the left so that Mana Mana becomes more prominent in the mix until Nothing But a Heartache is totally gone. It may be hard for you to hear that, but if you attend enough dances or do this enough, you'll start hearing that. And the fade is complete at this point. And I can push stop on Nothing But a Heartache. So that's mixing in a nutshell. It's nothing much more to this. There's some effects on here, some other funny stuff you can do, but I tend to be more traditional in my approach. I mean, obviously the USB controller isn't really traditional, but I like to, you know, kind of keep it traditional, stay away from things like funny effects and all of that kind of stuff. Just let the music kind of speak for itself. And people will dance. If they like what you're playing, people will dance. If they don't like what you're playing, you have a lot of opportunities to change it. So it's not a disaster. So a pretty danceable tune. These days, a lot of times I don't even have to bring all of this stuff into clubs. They just have mixing decks there. They're called CDJs, but I can just bring a little USB stick with all my music in, plug it into the CDJ decks, and DJ right off of those. It's really easy. It's a really nice, pretty new technology that's getting very popular now with people. So, you know, you can DJ and really just have USB sticks. You know, it's an option. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and fade out Mana Mana, because that's about it. So, yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this little demo of DJing, and maybe one day I'll see you DJing out there. You never know. But I hope you enjoyed. Thanks!